Okay, well, welcome back to our unit on the solar system. What is our solar system? What is it made up of? Of course, we have our sun, we have planets. Many of those planets have moons, and there are some other small objects out here with us as well. Of course, the center of our solar system is our sun, and Earth, along with the other planets and other objects, orbit around it. And of course, we know that gravity and inertia are what keep us in orbit around the sun. Now, we did the activity where we created our little scale of the solar system. We made our own up. But typically, when we're talking about distances in the solar system, because they are so large, we use what is called an astronomical unit. That is the average distance between the Earth and the Sun, or about 150 million kilometers. So rather than dealing with those very large numbers, we deal with astronomical units, just a simpler scale. Of course, the sun is the center of our solar system, and we have learned a lot about the sun over the past couple of weeks. Now, we have our planets. What really is a planet? A planet has to be round, so it has to have enough of its own gravity that it has that circular shape. It orbits the sun, and the key thing here is that it has to have a cleared path along its orbit. So a lot of you are wondering why Pluto is no longer a planet, and that of course is because it does not have that clear path. Okay, so let's break up the planets. Those first four planets are small and mostly made up of rock. The last four planets are very large and mostly made up of liquids and gases. Every planet has its own day and its own year. Of course, we know that a day is the time it takes to rotate on its own axis, and a year is the time that it takes for a planet to orbit the sun. Now, of course, our poor little Pluto, he was considered our ninth planet for a very long time, but because the definition of a planet is having that clear path, Pluto does not fall into that category anymore, but he is considered a dwarf planet, and we'll talk more about those. A dwarf planet is just an object that orbits the sun. It has enough gravity to be spherical, but again, it doesn't have its own cleared path. There are 5 known dwarf planets. There is Pluto, Eris, Makemake, and Umea. Okay, so except for Mercury and Venus, every planet in the solar system does have at least one moon. Earth has the fewest with just one. Jupiter and Saturn both have more than 60 moons. And then those other objects that we can find in our solar system. There are asteroids, which are small rocky bodies. Most of the asteroids can be found between Mars and Jupiter in what is known as the asteroid belt, or they can be seen flying past Earth on occasion. We also have comets, which are just basically big, chunky snowballs. They have very long, narrow orbits. Okay, so how did the solar system actually form? And we've talked a little bit about this already. Scientists believe that the solar system formed about 4.6 billion years ago by material that was pulled together by gravity, of course, our law of universal gravitation. And that gravity pulled the material together. The cloud collapsed, it started rotating, it got tightly packed, it heated up, lots of pressure, temperature got high, hydrogen atoms, through the process of nuclear fusion, turned into helium. The sun gave off a lot of light and became a stable star. All that for summing it up in a nutshell. And then that dust and debris that was left over from the formation of the sun pulled away from the sun just a bit, and it began to form, and gravity pulled the ice and the rock and the gas together, and then those rocks and ice formed smaller bodies that were called planetesimals, and then those planetesimals came together and collided and formed larger bodies, eventually the planets in the solar system. Now those inner planets, the one closest to the sun, Of course, because they're closer to the sun, the heat was greater and a lot of the water evaporated, and so it prevented ice from forming. Um, the gravity was too weak to hold on to a lot of the gases like hydrogen and helium, and so that's why those inner planets are small and rocky. Now, the outer planets, of course, are made up of more gases. The gravity was strong enough to hold the hydrogen and helium and form those gas giants. And then when we get beyond those gas giants is where we're going to find the comets and the dwarf planets. So sort of what was left over from the formation of the inner and the outer planets. And that, my friends, is your introduction to the solar system.